She's a writer, she's a stand-up comedy performer, and she gives advice on the radio. Today's guest is Courtney Dawson. She's a national comedy treasure. You may have seen her make it to the final 3 on Celebrity Treasure Island, or recently at the Wanganui Comedy Gala. Please enjoy our chat with Auckland comedian Courtney Dawson. And at the end of the episode, don't forget to fill out the survey for a chance to win a pair of Bose AirPods. Just click the link below. Hey Courtney, how are you?
Kia ora. Hello, I'm so good. Thank you so much for having me. Talk about my favourite thing, smoking. Just kidding.
Thank you so much for being on our podcast. We're just going to crack right into some questions.
Cool.
So I was hoping that you could tell us about your first cigarette.
I was thinking about this when my first cigarette was. I can't remember the exact cigarette.
Can you tell us about your second cigarette then?
I'll tell you about a cigarette when I was a child. No, I was very good at tushes when I was younger because my cousins would find butts, outside the garage and have a little fang on them. But I was like, no, I'm not doing that. And it wasn't until I went to high school and the peer pressure of being in with the cool girls and the cool girls smoking. So I do distinctly remember being down on the field at my school and smoke a classic smoking spot. Yeah. Also, it was pretty creepy, to be honest. It was right in town and there was people hanging out in there. Anyway, it was no good. We were down there having a smoke and someone knocked on us and it was a blind girl. A blind girl knocked on us. She obviously, it's no secret.
The sense of smell.
It's no secret. Right? Cigarettes do not smell good. And she obviously smelt them from when she was doing her little PE exercises and she immediately told on us and we all got in trouble.
Right. Well, if you lose one sense, aren't the other senses heightened? So, yeah, that makes sense.
But also, how did she know it was you?
I don't really know the details. I know that it is true. I know because, sometimes when you remember things, you fill in the gaps, especially if your job is to just sort of lie and make up stories. I call them sprinkles, sprinkling little information that may or may not be true to make the story sound better. But it is true. I have heard this repeated by another one of my friends. I don't know how she... Well, I guess her sense of hearing is really good too, so she maybe heard our voices and recognized us.
So she's heard someone say, Courtney, please pass me that cigarette.
Yeah, so basically the story of my first cigarette is about a superhero, that I won't say her name, who has superhuman hearing, smelling, touching. Exactly.
Do you have any other true but maybe not true funny stories about smoking?
I guess, when I was maybe in my 20s, I didn't smoke that much, but my boyfriend used to smoke, but he would only smoke right before bed. And it was so revolting. I absolutely not a care in the world for anyone else in the bed. Just one big old
inside.
stinkies.
Like literally in bed.
But he would brush his teeth, have a cigarette, and then go to bed.
Just once a day.
He was not right. Once a day. That was his cigarette. Because, I feel like as a smoker, you always have your, favorite cigarettes. So even if you give up, my favorite cigarette is, after a feed cigarette and morning and a coffee cigarette. Absolutely gorgeous. But not a bedtime smoke. I want to go to sleep with the illusion that I've got my life together, without having my mouth taste like an ashtray. I can ruin my life the next day.
Have you ever become a full smoker, or were you would you have always said you were a social smoker?
My most heartiest smoking days was when I worked in retail, because that's a big part of retail culture, or was at the time, where you serve all these horrific people, get in, all the dramas, all the love affairs that are going on in work, and then you go and have your little break and smoke durries and gossip about everyone and de-stress.
They literally call it a smoker.
Smoker, yeah, exactly. I did love it. I can't lie to you. I love smoking cigarettes.
Yeah, be honest.
I guess it was a social thing, a stress thing, even though the only reason it makes you calm is probably because you're actually breathing, which you can also accomplish by simply breathing.
Just breathing.
Instead of smoking a cigarette. Yeah. But I was definitely, that was my most heaviest smoking, and I was sometimes smoking rollies and stuff to make it last longer. I don't know that was also the poorest I've ever been. So I don't know who I thought I was buying, $30 packets of cigarettes. But...
What made you quit?
Or
have you quit?
Yeah. I do allow myself a cheeky dowry every now and then. Like if someone has a packet of cigarettes and offers me one, then I will say yes. That doesn't happen very often because hardly anyone smokes, and also they're insanely expensive. So people don't go around giving them out willy-nilly. And when I'm on holiday, I'll smoke cigarettes. I think I did quit once. I quit for like a year when I was in my 20s. And then I went to Mexico and the packets of cigarettes were like $2. And I was like, I was having the time of my life. I was smoking all around that city. And I was like, why not? It's so cheap. And then I was accidentally addicted as soon as I got back. So and then I just began smoking again.
You're like, and you got back and they were not $2.
They were not $2. No, they're probably about $2 each.
Probably
but
cheaper
by that
to
time
fly to Mexico to just for a smoke and
exactly. But now it's really hard to get them into the country as well. You're only allowed like 2 packets. So that's where I do most of my smoking, international waters.
Yeah. And so why did you want to quit or to reduce the amount that you smoke?
It is genuinely a horrific, disgusting habit. It stinks. It's so expensive. It literally kills you, Like,
right.
It's not
That's what I was thinking, like when you're smoking in the schoolyard right next to the graveyard. It was kind of appropriate.
Yeah. It's a little on the nose,
Yeah.
But yeah, it's something that is obviously, is so bad for you. And I think like that's probably part of the like loop shame of it as well, of being like, I know this is so bad for me. I'm completely addicted. Then I do it. And then I feel terrible about doing it. What's going to calm me down? Another cigarette. And it's just little hamster brain doing the same thing over and over and over again. I have quit mostly, but I do unfortunately vape.
Right. So you vape
yes.
as much as you would have smoked? Like you've replaced it with vaping?
Way more vaping than cigarettes. I in some ways I think that it's like almost worse because you can do it wherever. But also, I feel like the tide is turning on vaping as well. I think it's also yuck. I think people think that it's yuck.
Do you feel that
I feel like a scumbag when I'm sitting in a room and absolutely no one is vaping, and I have taken like 3 breaths of fresh air in like in an hour. Like it does make you feel like a disgusting person. But also, like, guys, I'm addicted to nicotine. Sorry.
Yeah. That's the thing.
I tried. I do have the gum, but there was one point where I was like chewing the gum, vaping, and having a cigarette. Sometimes it's just like you really need to be committed to it. It's not something that you can just be like, oh, maybe I'll try and quit today.
Have you considered the patch as well, just to collect all 4? Or
yeah, I know. Well, then, like, at what point am I more nicotine than woman? Like, when are we going to stop this?
It's like your superhero, nicotine woman.
They say we're 70.
Yeah.
They say we're 70% water.
Yeah, we're 70% water. She's 70% nicotine. What do you think's like cool about smoking?
It is quite glamorous. I think, well, certainly if you're, like a millennial or older, it's such a like ubiquitous part of pop culture, and it's always in, movies and stuff. When I see people smoking in movies, I immediately want a cigarette. It's just, I guess it's just related in my brain to like gangsters and, hot, skinny Kate Moss models. Because, I am a millennial chickie. So the number one like idols when I was a teenager was like Kate Moss and stuff. I was a very glamorous smoker. I wanted to be exactly like her. I don't think I had fully realized that I was actually a thick brown woman, and that was never going to be my future. But hey, at least I got the smoking down. If I can't be blonde, I'll smoke.
So we have had some questions from our listeners, which I think you've actually probably answered the first one, which is like, why did you start smoking in the first place? Which is why a lot of people start smoking, peer pressure, to be cool. But when you quit, like what were the emotions of that? Were there challenges? How hard was it? Tell us about that.
Yeah, it was super hard. I think that, it is super hard. It's literally something that's designed to make your body addicted to it. And I think the biggest emotion that I had was like a real sense of like shame and disappointment. Also because I'm a mum, like I would hate for my son to start smoking. But in some ways I was like, man, I wish diaries would come back because at least I could smell it, because I can't smell, you can't smell someone's vaping. Like, oh, I go in his room, it smells like strawberry, you know, he might have an essential oil burner in there, I don't know. But yeah, it's mostly, my kid. It's my health and my kid. That was the biggest thing. And at the time when I did start vaping, that was like actively being pushed. And I mean, it is to a certain degree as a way to quit smoking, but I think people know now that it's like, no, it's actually not much better than quitting smoking. So that's how I did it, as I started vaping. So if anyone's got any tips on how to get off the vape, I'm all ears.
I honestly feel like that's where a lot of people are sitting right now, is they've used vape to quit smoking and now they need to quit vaping.
I know heaps of people who didn't smoke and have started vaping as well, which is even worse.
Talking about this.
And because even if it's not nicotine, it's like, come on. I dare you to try and name some ingredients that is in their vape mix, man. Like, there's absolutely no way you know what you're putting into your lungs. So, yeah. It is very hard.
Will you quit vaping at some point?
Yeah, well, okay. Well, this is a very personal story, but my son had been caught vaping at school and stuff, and he'd been stood down. And it was like really hypocritical of me to be like, you shouldn't vape, when I'm like sitting there vaping. I try not to vape in front of him and stuff, but he knows. And I found a vape in his room the other day, and instead of like spinning out and like being an egg about it, I was just like, do you want to stop vaping? And he was like, yeah, I do. And I was like, why? And he was like, I don't know. He's like, I don't even have any money. It's boring. I know it's bad for me. And I was like, well, then let's stop vaping together. So when I get back from Melbourne, we're going to make a little star chart for ourselves. And we were like, maybe we should have like a reward, you know, at the end of 6 months. And I was like, or maybe the reward should just be that our lungs aren't filled with trash. Yeah. How about that for a reward? So yeah, because and to clarify, my son is 15. You know, he's not 7. Just so people know.
Like the star chart, you know, really threw us there.
Celebrate with a cake on your 4th birthday.
Yeah, it's like my son is 3 and we use star charts all the time.
Yes, no, he is a teenager.
Rappy's bringing a vape home from kindy.
If you quit vaping, we'll buy you a tricycle. Yeah. So
yeah, how about
he's been stood down from kindergarten.
So yeah, that's like, in a way it was like embarrassing, you know, it's hard to admit, you know, parenting faults and stuff, but I just think that that's so much more useful, and he's at an age where we can like have straight conversations about stuff like that, and I really welcome that. So
you're parenting in a way that's just like, you're human, so you're just being honest with him that you're also going through something similar.
Yeah, and it sort of had to be like that because I'm a single mum. It's always just been me and him. Like his dad's awesome. His dad's involved, but when he was with me, it was just me and Ari. So we had to have we always just sort of had to know what was going on with each other and be really openly communicative. So
cool. Do you have any more questions for Courtney?
No. Well, I mean, it sounds like you're going back to the quitting. I mean, it sounds like you've got a good motivation there. To quit. For your son, for yourself, do it together. Are there any other tips that that have worked or that you're going to try to employ?
I mean, I know I'm being very flippant because this is my nature to be like, hey, I'm doing a dirtbag thing. But in all honesty, I do really want to quit, and I will go, and it's sort of going in hand with a lot of changes that are happening in my life. I think that now that I'm self-employed, I'm a full-time comedian, I really need to be a lot more conscious, not just of like the financial decisions that I'm making, because contracting can be very, come and go. You never know when your next paycheck's coming on, but also just to be able to do this mahi. What I've realized over the past 5 years since doing comedy is that I really need to be mentally well and mentally on, and participating in an activity like vaping or smoking that I know is bad for me is like not good for my brain, because then it just starts the spiral of being like, you shouldn't be doing this. Why are you doing this? Da, 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 da. So I guess part of it is like trying, making a plan, and also like not being too hard on yourself, because sometimes that can just like trigger all those emotions that make you reach for a cigarette or, a drink or a pie or whatever your chosen vice is. So yeah, just just ease up on yourself, be chill, make a plan, and go for it, man. I believe in all of you, and I hope you believe in me too.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
Solid
I
advice.
pulled
Thank
it
you,
out of the
Courtney.
bag there at the end instead of just being like, I love Darry's. Yeah.
Great. Yeah. Great advice. Now you just have to follow it.
Check back in with you at the gala.
Yeah, absolutely. Sounds good.
Well, thank you so much for chatting with us today, Courtney. That was awesome.
Yeah, awesome.
Okay, cool. I'm glad we got there in the end.
Bye. We hope you enjoyed that episode of Comedians Quitting. Please don't forget to fill out the survey in the link below for your chance to win a pair of Bose AirPods. Every episode listened to and every survey filled out is another chance to win.